Hey there, welcome to episode 105 of the Quaggling Sand audio program. I am your host, Dan Hugo. We are recording this at 7:50 a.m. Pacific Standard Time in the Greater Vegas area on this Wednesday, November 12, 2025. We release Quaggling Sand episodes on Wednesdays, so that works out nicely. Today's title and topic, Not a Gamer. That's me. If you're not familiar with the Quaggling Sand audio program, Quaggling Sand is a technical term I coined when I was somewhere in the early single digits, age-wise. You probably refer to this condition as pins and needles. It's the sensation you feel when circulation returns to probably a limb. Maybe you were sleeping on your hand or sitting on your foot, something along those lines. Goes numb, and as circulation returns and feeling returns in that extremity, again, you probably call it pins and needles, but the actual correct term, Quaggling Sand. This is an audio program about yours truly, stories, tales, recollections, maybe something interesting, useful, educational, funny, who knows? Completely self-serving. Audio essays. Probably not going to have any guests on this audio program. We haven't so far. We're on episode 105 already, so you never know, but we kind of know. Hopefully, wherever you found this audio program, you're able to locate the episode description, which contains the show notes, including a brief summary, which I'll read, and the links for today's episode, which are the same as last week. Nothing particularly outlandish to link to today, so we're just going with the usuals. So let's get started so we can get finished on this lovely Wednesday morning. The summary is thus: gaming, the playing of computer games on high-performance computer hardware, drives technology in some ways and undoes society in others. I am merely a spectator. The links, as usual, the Quaggling Sand homepage, Quaggling Sand, no spaces, QUOGGLINGSAND.com. I've given up trying to say that I'm going to have a nice, beautiful website. Whenever it's coming along, I have too many other things to do. I don't have enough web traffic to go too crazy. Is one the cause of the other? Who knows? But the underpinnings of publishing podcasts, audio programs, and so on is on the table. Profile page linking everything. buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo. That's been there for 5 years, give or take. buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo/posts, home of the Buy Me an Update audio program published on Mondays. A 5-minute rundown on the previous week's audio programming. The buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo profile page itself has links to all of my audio programs in various places, including YouTube and Spotify for creators and homepages and so on. There are links to my various projects and other things I'm working on. There's some biographical information, and there are affiliate links. You're under no obligation to spend any money at buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo. You can if you want to, or you can follow some of those affiliate links if you want to. All proceeds that are received, I suppose, is the all proceeds received through this portal. How about that? Go towards the purchase of coffee or coffee accessories, which is how we continue to produce all of these audio programs each week. Coffee. That's all. I've cut down the links so you can find the other links that I used to mention on the quagglingsand.com homepage and or the buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo profile page. Now, on with the show. Gaming. Now, first of all, there may be people who might call themselves gamers who play board games, role-playing games, and here in Vegas, gaming involves money and the gaming control board and whatnot. But I am talking about computer gaming, and most of the time when one hears reference to gamers, they're referring to the proverbial person playing video games in their parents' basement. That might be you. Who knows? There's probably a finer distinction between console gamers and computer gamers. Console games like consoles like the Sony PlayStation, Microsoft Xbox. Those are probably the big ones nowadays. Used to be the Wii, the Nintendo Wii, or the remember the Sega Genesis? We'll talk about that briefly later. especially the latter group of computer gamers who build, sometimes, often build their own machines. Sometimes they modify them to run faster with overclocking and exotic cooling schemes, while console gamers may tend to stick to the stock system. Actually, I don't know if people are modifying consoles nowadays. Maybe. Though I am not at all sure about the state of console gaming today. And by the way, there are now these handheld consoles. These seem pretty cool. Maybe alternate use computers also, like a portable, almost like a laptop replacement, maybe. I don't know. Console gaming, and that's actually another thing on the list of things, thanks to gamers. Console gaming has certainly gained a lot of ground in general due to the development of the various technologies, especially graphics processing and video codecs. Codecs, by the way, CODECS. Those are video compressors, so that starts with CO, and decompressors starts with DEC, so codec. These are the things that compress and decompress video so you can watch more video per storage unit. It's how you can fit multiple entire movies on your phone in these modern times. And they've made they've made more and more realistic visualizations, but also audio and physical hardware and the rest. All sorts of things, all aspects of gaming, computer gaming, have basically improved year over year. Gaming chairs, gaming headsets, like microphone, headphone headsets, lighting for your gaming room, all have some impact on consoles as well as gamer rigs, as they're sometimes called. Consoles are all the same, so the people designing a particular console pick some hardware. You'll see an announcement from an AMD, for example, or what was it? I can't remember which device it was that was PowerPC based, and so there's usually some announcement. Oh, we're partnering with so and so. They're making a custom version of the Ryzen or the custom version of the PowerPC or whatever it is, and so they release this machine that's optimized for gaming, and then it stays in that form for till the next one. People who build their own machines, they're gamer rigs. They'll buy the latest and greatest video card, graphics video card, and they will bump up the memory. They'll overclock. They'll upgrade the processor. They'll get a new one when a new processor comes out. They'll swap out the motherboard when they need to. All sorts of good times. The upside of gaming, those GPUs, the graphic processing units that made rendering games more and more realistic at higher and higher resolutions on larger and larger screens, were actually making the math behind those images faster and faster. And it happens that the very same math, mostly, maybe similar is a better word, is used for cryptocurrency mining and, more exciting today, neural net computations, otherwise known as AI. Aren't we lucky? Aren't we lucky for those gamers? Basically paying for the, not all of it, but they certainly paid for / motivated this never-ending quest for faster and faster matrix multiplications. So in my early days, I was one of those kids that would take any opportunity in the mall to use the VIC-20 or later the Commodore 64 on display in various consumer electronics stores, usually running a high-tech basic program to print something in a loop, with advanced versions including a comma in the string for zigzag effect in the scroll. I don't think it was actually in the string. I think it was after the string, the ending quote of the string. That's been a while. I don't remember exactly. Sometimes there would be an Atari 2600 available on demo in the Toys by Roy store in Metro Center, for example. So a little tank or adventure time could be had. Those are the days. My uncle, who passed away some time ago, was something of a spoiled brat, only 9 years older than me. He had an Interact computer. I just recently saw somebody posted a photo, probably on Fostodon, of they just got their classic 8-bit Interact computer back up and running. So it was back in the day, everybody was trying to make a consumer computer of some sort. Apple, Commodore, and Atari came out ahead in that order, pretty much. Some would argue Commodore was better than Apple. I would argue that they're all kind of annoying at this point. Apple's still around. Commodore, they're kind of remaking some machines. it was an interesting time. Interesting time. So Apple, Commodore, and Atari basically came out ahead. I think I've told the story of my using Atari 800 computers when I was in sixth grade. Oh, you're bored? Why don't you go use our new computers? Atari fell away somewhat quickly. I don't think the Atari 800 lasted too long. Surely the Commodore 64 and later the Commodore 128 were shining stars for a good long time and are well remembered. And of course, Apple is Apple. But he did have that interactive computer with an awful Star Trek game that I liked to play when I was when I was granted permission. And later, he of course got an Intellivision game console with the voice module, of course. So B-17 Bomber was the game to play. And looking back, neither of those games or any of the other ones were particularly great. And I would argue not as good as my favorites. So eventually we would get an Atari 2600 console for our home. And I quickly became enamored with the, of course, adventure. Anyone who's seen Ready Player One knows of the white dot. But I was really into Activision games. I think they did a pretty good job. And let me correct the spelling of Activision. There we go. Still doesn't pass spell check, but correctly spelled nonetheless. So I used to like Activision games a little bit more, I think. Like Kaboom, which was just mindless fun. And Pitfall. Pitfall to me was, even though it's a side scroller and pretty basic, that was good times. And I think they were better than the Intellivision B-17 Bomber game, and the Star Trek game was pretty lame, actually. So when you think about it, so we had a bunch of game cartridges, actually, and it was a fun diversion hooked up to the old Sony Trinitron 13-inch TV. But I think I'm remembering correctly that as I had more and more access to computers with keyboards, like especially if I could get my hands on an Apple II Plus, eventually a 2E, I had less and less time to spend on Pitfall. I was not, I'm not going to say I got bored, but I'm going to say that I refocused my attention on computers and not game consoles. So Atari 2600 probably, the Intellivision was nice, the Coleco PlayStation.
What was that?
Computer, stop talking, please. Thank you. Coleco PlayStation. I'm just playing Coleco. What was it? Coleco. Was it the Coleco PlayStation? That doesn't sound right. Let me check that out real quick. Coleco PlayStation. Is that what it was called? ColecoVision, not PlayStation. ColecoVision. What a classic with a weird controller. So yeah, all these things, all the good times of home game consoles. But Atari, probably the most famous of them. Probably. Then there was a transition in college. Two of my roommates would in our final year. They moved to, we all got single dorm rooms. So they were in a different part of the dorm. They would dive into console gaming pretty significantly, especially sports gaming. One of the two, Kevin, made a decision he would own all of the consoles. And he pursued that for a few years after graduation even. So he had one of everything. Another friend had a Sega Genesis, my friend Tom. He had a Sega Genesis, which was a big deal at the time for having a very, very complicated programming model for game developers. I myself was more interested in building speakers at the time, which I did a couple of times in college, on a not as expensive as buying all of the consoles, but not a cheap hobby. On to Silicon Valley eventually. It took a few years, but eventually, while at TrueVision, I had a chance to play with the Japanese version of the Sony PlayStation, the original. Remember the little gray with the big giant CD player lid that would open? And I got hooked on Tekken. That was the only game we had. And I was playing it, and I thought this is kind of fun. It's mindless. I'm not a precision gamer when it comes to that stuff. A little bit more than a button masher, but not much. I don't really take the time to learn the lore and the silliness. But yeah, pure silly entertainment, really. But it did lead to my purchasing an American PlayStation when they became available. I'm not even sure. I don't remember why we had the Japanese PlayStation at TrueVision. It's possible that TrueVision hardware was being used for some of the graphic renderings or something, or during game development to accelerate something. Who knows? So I'm not sure why we had that there. But when the American PlayStation became available, I was like, oh, I got to get the PlayStation. And for whatever reason. So it was novel, yes, but ultimately it was more interesting to try out new games. So getting new games or renting games to actually was interesting. So I would rent a game. Sometimes they were Japanese, sometimes they were American. During that transition from Japanese PlayStation to American PlayStation, I would go rent a game, and they would say, "Oh, you had to play the Japanese one on the American PlayStation. You have to do some, hold down this, and like you'd put the disc in, and you'd press there's a little sensor that would know when the lid was closed. So you press that, and the disc would spin up, and then you take out this disc and you put in the Japanese one, and then it works and all that hackery. Yay! No, so these were novel, but ultimately it was more interesting to try out these new games, and maybe I kind of got into Tomb Raider. That was where that game kind of started. It was on the PlayStation, or Soul Blade or Soul Edge, or there were a few fun games that they would hold some attention. Soul Blade was better with a friend, so you could play head to head. So was Tekken. So when my console friend from college, I wrote console fiend. Maybe that's correct. My console friend from college, my former roommate. He was my other roommate also. Anyway, when he moved up to Silicon Valley, we would play head to head now and then. Of course, he had all the latest consoles and games, so we'd play at his place. Just mindless fun. The thing I found, though, working with and on computers all day, all the time for years as my career path, I was not excited at the notion of stopping work on one computer and spending hours more on a play computer. I did get a PlayStation 2, and I don't remember when I got that, but I got a PlayStation 2, and I did play more Tomb Raider and Gran Turismo 4, GT4. I even got the steering wheel, and it was fun. GT4, I wasn't really into the racing so much as the actual just driving simulation. So basically, I like to do the solo car, like what was it called? Time trials, basically. So, racing against other cars. Okay, it was interesting, but I just got a kick out of the simulation quality, the attention to detail for the cars and whatnot. So, okay, that was more diversion. Tomb Raider is a fun game, so kept me busy for a little while. Eventually, I gave all my PlayStation 2. I just put it all in a box, and I gave it to a friend of mine who was in need of some entertainment and diversion. So I just put it in a big box. I said, "Take it. I'm just not into this anymore. It's all yours." I have not owned a game console since. Gamers have, though, changed the world, believe it or not. Demand for better, faster, and more realistic, more challenging games, and more recent games that could be played with others online in real time with as little lag as possible. All of this has driven ever faster and usually more expensive cutting-edge hardware from video acceleration and graphic synthesis. I'm splitting the terms in the usual way, where video is the generation of a stream of bits destined for display, lately on an LCD monitor of some kind. The latest OLEDs and all this. Maybe a head-mounted display. Those are coming and going in popularity. A cell phone, more likely lately, or whatever. Graphics are the generation of the images with compositing, voxel rendering, shading, and so on. So high frame rates and realistic images, great. And so when I worked at Supermac, we were doing graphic accelerators. And of course, I worked at Intel. Intel has been a huge component of the gaming universe. So the latest Intel CPU, how much could you overclock it and whatnot? I didn't work in any of that high performance computing stuff. I was on the maker end of the price spectrum. So our stuff was much cheaper. But all computing technology has sort of been elevated because as more people bought this stuff, my entire career path has been sort of impacted in some way by gamers and gaming, because so much money pours into making some of the acceleration. And of course I worked at Philips in the flat display group, so our LCD monitors would figure into gaming in this way or that. So yeah, everything I've done through my career has been touched in some way by the gaming marketplace. So kind of interesting. General purpose CPUs, so that's your Intel or your AMD, so Intel Core, is that what they're called now? Core. and maybe your AMD Ryzen or now ARM chips. I don't know if they have names for those. There's a few different companies making them. These are all doing normal stuff like drawing windows and managing your mouse and your internet connection, general purpose stuff. But those GPUs are accelerating a collection of mathematical operations with optimized memory access and pipelines and whatnot. So basically multiply and add a bunch of numbers extremely quickly. Oh no, somebody's doing landscaping right outside. Hopefully that won't be too crazy. So yeah, multiplying and adding a bunch of times, vector and matrix operations. There is more to it than that, but this is a reasonably high level summary. Get the point out. Graphic rendering relies a lot on vector and matrix operations, which is a lot of multiplying and adding. And that's it sounds simple, right? But do it billions and billions of times per second or whatever their rates are for calculation. And the blockchain hashing algorithms rely a lot on multiplying and adding. And neural net operations rely a lot on multiplying and adding. So yeah, gamers have helped to fund and drive these hardware underpinnings for these big giant trends. The blockchain didn't disappear, but it's certainly not as cool and exciting. People talk about crypto, but they don't really talk about blockchain and whatnot. But anyway, so that sort of came out of, they weren't related in the notion, but the hardware that makes things faster happens to help the blockchain and AI. So yeah, gamers have helped to fund and drive these hardware underpinnings for a good long time. So I guess we should thank them. Thanks. And the other stuff, better displays like low blur. Image blur used to be a problem because LCDs would not transition between colors as quickly as CRT phosphors could. So you get this smearing effect, and gamers do not like that. So you got to reduce that gray to gray, I think they call it, gray to gray transition times. Got to keep those down as low as possible so you get these nice sharp image transitions, which helps with watching movies and other moving things. So generally improve the quality of LCDs because got to have those gamers buying LCD screens. High refresh rates, again, no tearing, no smearing. Nice flat displays, sometimes curved displays now, also a gamer thing. I keep reading that people that get these giant, like they're the width of their desk and they're curved, so they can, when they you have to turn their head to look over. Oh, there's the left side, and then you turn your head all the way around. Oh, there's the right side of my desktop. This Excel spreadsheet is huge. I keep reading reviews that people say, you know what? After a while, it's not as great. It's probably better to have two monitors, and you can position them where you want, and you don't have, you can put them above above and below, or you can basically put your monitors in a configuration where you don't have to turn your head all the time. You're not driving a car. Now, if you're a gamer, you want to pretend you're driving a car, flying a plane, or looking around a corner or whatever. The big giant monitors are great, but so those are a mixed bag, I think. But yeah, they're just bigger, better. Everything bigger and better. They got spatial audio now. You might have headphones are easier to do this with, but you might have the equivalent of some 7.1 audio system attached to your computer. Gaming has driven realistic spatial audio for full immersion effect, but easier to do with headphones. Physical controller improvements so that you can, use your thumbs effectively, not injure yourself from hours and hours and hours of gaming. But it's actually amazing how much work has gone into the physical controller devices, including haptic feedback, so they vibrate, button placement, 3D spatial movement sensors. That's interesting in and of itself because, whether you're using the controllers that have been developed along this path to drive a submarine to the Titanic on a one-way trip, or maybe you're just purely gaming and now you have attachments for cell phones that add gaming controllers. So your cell phone becomes the display and you attach controllers to either end, so you hold it in landscape mode and use it like a gaming machine. Companies are now selling those. Asus, the Steam gaming rig. Does Lenovo have one? So yeah, these look like a landscape horizontally oriented cell phone with controllers on either end for your thumbs. So yeah, great. More computing, more devices to play with. And again, they're essentially little computers. I know SteamOS is Linux based. There's another, I can't remember if it's the Asus gaming machine that I think it's running Windows, but these are all basically general purpose computers with, of course, graphic acceleration and nice video on the little LCD screen, but I think they have video out ports. So you can use these things as little computers, and it's sort of a form of laptop replacement, perhaps, or it could come in handy. So these are the things that have come out of gaming. Not to mention, the casual user may not make this association, but low latency network communications for real-time gaming, real-time multi-user streaming of gameplay, which helped to spawn the live internet streamer universe we live in today. So Justin TV became Twitch TV, and Twitch TV basically became a place where people would stream their live gameplay so others could watch them play. And then it sort of, I don't know how quickly, but I didn't really track the history of this, but you could talk to you. So you basically have you in the corner playing the game on the full screen, and you're down in the little corner with your headset on making comments about a game. Or then people started talking about other things while they're gaming, or you could have your friends and have a multi-user stream of people playing against each other, usually some sort of a shooting game, so they're trying to kill each other. Isn't that great? So yeah, and then people started streaming other things on Twitch. And I remember there was some sort of there was complaining, hey, you're supposed to be playing games. So there'd be people playing a game on their Twitch stream, but talking about issues of the day, sporting events, whatever. And then I think they just gave in and they said, okay, you're either a gamer or you're doing other stuff. So people kind of got into it, they were okay with that. Acceptable. And you can live stream on YouTube now, and you can live stream on other platforms. So gaming, live streaming, I mean, who knew? Walkthroughs probably helped with this. So a walkthrough, you would describe how to play a game so that people could get around where they're stuck or something. And to me, this is crazy, because if you ever look for a walkthrough of Tomb Raider or something. People spend so much time constructing these detailed descriptions of when to turn and when to duck and when to pick up an object and whatever, all this stuff. I don't understand that. I honestly don't understand why people spend so much time on that, but they do. And so I guess the world is a better place for it. Gamer headsets, I mentioned that for in-game voice communications. You can actually do team play where you're look around the corner. Sure. A whole collection of on-camera accessories. So when you're streaming, so not only streaming the video game itself, so you capture the gameplay on the screen, but you want to have a camera pointed at you for your reactions and your general interaction. And then later when you're going to have just your stream and talking about this or that, not playing a game. And who knows what else. So you got to have your room lighted in a RGB lighting or whatever. Who knows? The game customer market is substantial, no question. So why am I not a gamer with all this coolness I just described? As I mentioned, I really, not kidding, really prefer to push away from the computer, which is the focus of most of the work I've done through my career in one way or another. I vastly prefer traveling for work. I vastly prefer putting the computer down and not using a computer all the time. Now I use a computer all the time, but I also tend to read. I read a ton of articles. I don't read books on my computer. That's a different comfort setting. But I always reading. I cannot even imagine how many millions of things I've bookmarked, surely never to be read again. But I'll read something and bookmark it just in case I want to find it later. That does work. I do go and find things later in my huge piles of bookmarks, but I prefer to push away from the computer and not make that the focus of not only the work I do, but also the entertainment or relaxation or leisure, I guess you could say. I'd rather just do something else. So for me, more screen time is not entertainment. Movies, TV, reading articles online, other such things are where I draw the line. So I don't, I don't like, I wouldn't, people will watch a movie on their laptop, like, oh, when you're flying on a plane, you can watch a movie. I flew on a lot of airplanes, and I I could watch the movie, especially international travel. Okay, you got a movie playing. I just would watch the airplane movies. I tended to not break out my laptop. The laptop could just stay. It could enjoy the flight as I was, not necessarily always working. So so yeah, I don't find the need to be always using a computer for every aspect of life, especially entertainment. Or and of course now gaming has become like a socializing tool. So gamer teams or however they organize. So I don't I no. The fact that most of the things that I actually use on my computer are reentrant, uh, which is the main difference. So reentrant means you can stop at any time and then come back and pick up where you left off. It's a programming term, but it's generally applicable here. So when we can stop or pause the media that we're watching and hit play again later. We can bookmark an article, read it later when we want to. We can generally come back to whatever we were doing at the time when we want to step away, and we can restart or get back to where we were. Games, especially online when you're streaming or your teams, or you're trying to virtually kill someone in a shooter game, and those have driven a huge amount of graphic acceleration, because you really got to have no lag time. You got to have all this realism and all. Okay, that's great, but if you're going to be playing with other people, you got to be online and ready to go. And then if you leave the game is playing on without you, so they're not really reentrant. So games tend to draw people in for extended periods of time. You hear stories of people playing for 20 hours or whatever. No thanks, no thanks. This is not to say that I'm anti-gaming or anti-gamer. And I don't even think that playing violent video games drives violence. I think people that are violent may be drawn to violent video games, but they already have a sort of a violent streak in them. I don't know of anyone, or I don't believe accounts that are normally not scientific. Scientific studies have shown that it's usually people that will commit violence might play violent video games. So I'm not anti-video game. I'm not anti-violent video games necessarily. I think I'm not going to say waste of time, but I think there could be better uses of time. I play games now and then, usually on my phone in the last decade or so. So on my Linux machine, let me see, do I have any games on here? I don't think so. I haven't played a game on my computer, on my main sort of the computer on which I do work, my workstation. I don't have any games that I play on here. There may be some that were installed as part of my Debian installation. There probably are. I do not play games on my computer. So usually, so phone. For the last decade or so, probably. Usually the sorts of games that can be played in one sitting, like a puzzle game or a game with a beginning and an end. Even if it's if it's an ongoing game, but a level, finish a level, you can do it in 20 minutes or something. I enjoy puzzle games. I enjoy games that you can play and be done with. So they're broken up into segments or levels, or just one shot. Although most games now have levels. So anyway, I have no desire to spend more than 20 minutes or so playing a game. On the rare occasion that I do, if I play one round of some sort of a puzzle game or something, and maybe play what else do I have? There are some interesting puzzle games that are very creative, and you can play a couple of rounds maybe, so that's more than one sitting. Maybe two sittings in one. I definitely want to be able to pause or stop at any time and come back later. So I don't want to feel like, I got to just let me finish this game. It's just 2 more hours. I do appreciate all the technology that gamers have driven. It's made my computing experience better and faster and all that. In some cases, cheaper. I don't feel the need to buy the latest GPU. Actually, I don't even have a GPU card. I have a Ryzen G processor with a built-in APU or a built-in GPU, so they're APUs. So yeah, I didn't need to have the latest and greatest. So the fact that there are people who do drives the price down for the rest of us, which is not so bad. Unfortunately, AI is driving up the cost of memory, but I'm not building a computer right now anyway, so that's fine. So I appreciate all the technology that gamers have driven through their marketplace demand, which means money spent. And I can speak to that again through my career. Gamer money has had an impact, even if indirectly, on a lot of the things that I've done. This has been good for me and any techno weenies in general, I hope. There's got to be some reason for all this. I mean, the law of unintended consequences may come back to bite us all, but for the most part, gamers have had a net positive effect on the non-gamer crowds as well. And it has given people things to do. I mean, NVIDIA engineers are probably sitting around thinking, we should make our games faster. And look where it got them. A friend of mine was the CFO of NVIDIA when they were located entirely in one building on Lawrence Expressway near the Thai restaurant I used to go to all the time. So I would drive by NVIDIA all the time. And then NVIDIA moved to a bigger campus. And now, of course, they own a fraction of the planet in one way or another. So they're only getting the big name numbers now from AI because they did all this gaming stuff. So there is something to be said. I will end by saying that I actually did rather enjoy physical arcades, which I didn't actually even mention. Consoles were basically replicating the classic arcade, especially video game. You can't really, you can't get skee ball in your home. You can try to simulate it on a Wii, but the classic arcade is a separate experience. Sometimes you'll see some of it at a carnival. Essentially, these are the precursors to the console games, though, especially the video game cabinet games that were to be found in arcades and can still be found here and there in convenience stores and who knows where else. Now you can get a modern computer-based emulator. MAME, M-A-M-E, was multiple something machine emulator, I think it was. Multiple arcade machine emulator, probably. I tried that, and you could get the actual ROM, so you were playing the actual console game. It wasn't somebody that recoded it. They made an emulator that could pretend to be the hardware of the original console game, and you could play the real game. You'd get the real ROM, the real code for the real game, probably not completely legally, some copyright violations in there somewhere, but you could get these ROMs and play the real game. And so that was kind of cool. Emulated, but still, because of computer performance today, I mean, I'll let you do this, but you can play Atari console games in your web browser now. That's how fast computers are nowadays. Missile Command, Chopper Command, Asteroids, Dig Dug, Centipede, Ikari Warriors was a fun one when I was in high school. Galaga or Galaga, however you want to say that. Defender, and the list of classics goes on and on. Could spend hours or $10 in quarters in an arcade at the drop of a hat. It's too many games to count, really. It was a good time. So I used to go to I can't remember, it wasn't Bagatelle. There was a substantial arcade in the Valley West Mall that I would ride my bike to when I was younger. There was a nice arcade in Metro Center Mall where we used to play Ikari Warriors when we were there. Golf and stuff. A castle full of video games and so on. I think there are a couple of places places in Vegas, thank you, that attempt to bring back that arcade experience. I think there's one in the Neonopolis downtown, and I think there are one or two sort of 80s. Yeah, I think there's one 80s style, like I think it has like a Back to the Future DeLorean on the sign out front. I've never been there, but there have been a couple of gaming establishments. They try to mix sort of a bar, adult interaction / video gaming environment. I don't know if those work, but yeah, there are a couple of these, and they try to bring back that arcade experience. But actually, even better than those, you can just go to the Pinball Museum across the street from the fabulous Las Vegas sign, literally across the street. If you're flying into the Las Vegas airport, you could do worse than stopping by there. It is only slightly not on the way to wherever you are actually going. So it's just off of Sunset, which is the south edge of the airport. So you're pretty close. And you can go play pinball, and they are also quarter based. So I think pinball is more fun than video games. I think it's a much more physical, simple. I don't know. I can't really describe it, but pinball is hopefully won't be going away anytime soon. The Pinball Museum. This is not a plug for that so much, but it's a fun place. I've only been there once. I really should go more often. It's an embarrassment of riches right there, available whenever I want. Anyway, so yeah, I'm not a gamer. I just don't see. If I was a total pinball fanatic, I would go to the Pinball Museum once a week. It's literally right there. 2 buses, and I'm there. Don't have to deal with parking. Don't have to deal with traffic. Let the bus driver do that. I could be on my phone playing some other game at the time. No, more likely reading articles. But if I were a true fanatic, I would get down there and I'd play pinball, or I would get to the nearest arcade and play arcade games, or I would have a gaming console. I find none of that worth going too crazy about. So, but all these things have made my career a little bit more interesting. So thanks, you gamers, for funding so much of what we use today. That's all. That's all I got to say. Thanks for listening as always. And we'll catch you next week with another tale, recollection, story, whatever. And don't forget to check out some of my other audio programs. Go to buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo, or you can visit quaglingsand.com. I think I have to add the links to the other sites, but for the moment, buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo, links to everything. If you're feeling like you want to listen to more, we got you. Take care now. Bye-bye.